Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Nothing to See Here podcast. Hi, it's Frankie.
It's Hannah.
Hey Frankie, guess what? I found out something insane today. Did you know that in like the 80s there was a bunch of like porn theaters?
You just found out porn theaters existed?
I knew they existed, but I didn't know like how fucking many there were. Like obviously I knew the story of like Pee Wee Herman, he got caught jacking it in a porn theater. I think it was a porn theater, which apparently you weren't supposed to masturbate
No,
in
so
porn
you
theaters.
can't whip it out in public. That's illegal.
So you're just supposed to sit there and give yourself blue balls?
Yeah, I don't understand the
You just
purpose.
like you just like keep it in your mind for memory for later?
Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. Porn theaters are or a bad idea, no matter what. Because if you can just whip it out, that's weird. I don't want to do it in a room full of other people. And if you can't whip it out, you're just sitting there watching porn for what? The quality? I don't the
I
superb acting abilities. I don't understand what the point is. So like,
Porn doesn't have that great. I think old porn did. Old
do
porn
you?
they tried. Older porn.
Okay, so you just found out there were a lot of them.
Yeah, I just found out there was like a shit ton. I just thought there was going to be one here or there, but no, there was like a fucking shit ton, especially in big cities. Pittsburgh apparently had a lot of porn theaters.
Okay.
So, even though you're not supposed to whip it out in a porn theater,
Yeah.
people obviously did. What did they do for cleanup? Were there people who literally had to mop up jizz?
I don't
I
know.
hope they got paid a lot.
I
They
mean,
didn't.
there are people who do that in regular theaters now.
That's true.
You're right. You remember the 50 Shades of Grey thing? I remember, like, I think it was a BuzzFeed article or something where a movie theater worker found a used cucumber.
I would quit. I wouldn't even like I'd see that on the ground and I'd just leave and be like, I'm going home. And if I still have a job tomorrow, fine. If I don't, that's cool too.
I get upset. Like, I would get upset working in a movie theater if somebody, like, had a kid and their kid, like, just went crazy with their popcorn everywhere. Like, that would make me want to quit right then and there. Having a used cucumber that's probably, like, still wet with some weird substance of some kind, nah. But it threw me for a loop that there were just so many of them. Obviously, they're gone now because, the cell phone industry kind of killed that, and so the free
The,
porn
the the
industry.
internet
Pornhub
killed
probably
that.
did a lot of it. What?
The internet killed it. Who's gonna go out to a theater to watch porn when you can do it in the comfort of your own home?
Did I ever tell you the first porn movie I watched? I
Wh-
actually watched it on accident, like official movie.
What do you mean official movie? What, like they got a theatrical release and an Oscar nomination? What does that mean, official movie?
Did you buy an adult
No, like
film in a hotel as a child?
no, no. So, and I'm sure everybody has had this at one point because Percy Jackson was a big thing, right? I was really into like Greek mythology and stuff like that. And that just, in turn moved to
I'm
like
sorry.
Greek.
Can I pause before you tell this story
Yes.
and make a side bet with Hannah?
Yeah.
Hannah, let's
Okay.
make a little side bet here because she started the story off with, I'm sure this has happened to everybody.
Hmm.
What do you want to bet that she's gonna say some of the most absurd shit we've ever heard in our lives?
She does that every single day.
Yeah, I understand that, but she doesn't usually preface it with everyone's done this.
I
I'm
feel like
sure
this is
everybody
going
had
to
a
be
Percy
a thing.
Jackson phase. Yes.
Oh, you're saying that. You're not saying the whole story is something that everyone's experienced.
No, the whole story is something that probably only happened
Okay.
to just me. But
Okay.
everybody fucking had a Percy Jackson phase where they liked Greek mythology and shit like that.
I wouldn't call that a Percy Jackson phase. I would just call that a
I
Greek
would,
mythology phase.
yeah, I would call that being 12.
Because I
Yeah,
didn't I've only ever read the first book of Percy Jackson, but I did love Greek mythology.
You need to
regardless,
finish the series.
you should finish the
Do
series.
you want to borrow my Percy Jackson series?
I also have them as well. I reread them.
Yeah, mine aren't in great shape.
Mine are in very nice shape.
Maybe borrow Amanda's then. Mine could fall apart at any moment.
And don't break them. I care about them, especially my the Heroes of Olympus ones.
Okay, what's your story that I'm sure is going to become incredibly inappropriate?
Yeah, it's not really that super inappropriate. But I had a, Greek mythology phase, and then that morphed into just like learning about Greek history because honestly, I feel like that's what world history was back when I was like in middle school. Was like you learned about like ancient Egypt, the Greeks, all the way up until like the American Revolutionary War, and then maybe the Civil War, and then that was it. Like that was the cutoff. So
You
it's just
mean
kind of
you actually learned about different cultures and weren't just forced to learn about the American Revolution every year?
only no, we definitely learned about the American Revolution every year. There was only like maybe 3 semesters where we got other history that wasn't just American history.
You
And then
had
there was
three
the year we got
semesters of
civics.
world history?
And then we got
Wow.
civics. And that was just that made my head hurt. Really liked history at the time. Still like history at the time. Um, and I was like, Julius Caesar was kind of a fucking crazy man, but so was Caligula. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And I saw on the internet somewhere that there was a movie called Caligula, and
Just
I
want to
watched.
point out, just want to point out, you started this story talking about Greek history. We've jumped an entire civilization. We've jumped to
Shut up.
a different group of people.
Yeah, but the Romans stole all of the shit from the Greeks.
Not everything. Not
Everybody knows
everything.
it. A lot of it.
Just 99% of it.
99. Thank you, Hannah. um, Caligula was a real fucking crazy dude. And I read about it. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then I saw somewhere online that
That
like
he was a crazy man?
Caligula was crazy. Did you not?
Yeah, I know that he was crazy. I'm saying you thought him being crazy was cool.
Yeah, I find insane people hella cool. I'm a therapist.
Doesn't mean you have to find them cool. You can find them interesting or academically intriguing.
Same difference.
Well, there is a difference.
I am sick.
That's
Give
not.
me some break. I'll
I'm going to
leave.
give you no breaks.
I will leave.
Finish your story.
You haven't let me. Read about Caligula, saw that there was a movie, did like, how you get free movies online back when you were in middle school, the 1, 2, 3 free movies. Found it, and there was just fucking orgy scene. There was a couple orgy scenes. Like penis and everything. Just full on out.
Are you
Actual
sure
sex.
you saw a porn movie or you just watched like an NC-17 movie?
I'm not sure, actually. Now I'm gonna have to look this up. Let me look up Caligula.
There's
It's a
just a porno
19
film
it's a
that is
1979 film. Malcolm McDowell's in it. It's not a like a porn movie. It's a
It's an
legitimate
erotic
film.
historical drama.
Yeah, but that's not porn.
It says erotic.
Yes, but that's not
Sex in
porn.
film. It was the first porn scene that I had ever seen in like a quote unquote movie.
Sex scene. First sex scene.
Yeah, sure. No, it wasn't my first sex scene. My first sex scene was Shakespeare in Love. And that was when I was like, I don't know, 8. So actually, it was probably the Titanic, and I just didn't know what was happening. Point stands. It was the first time that I actually saw actual sex. This was not simulated sex. This was actual sex in a film. Like film that was released. Whether that was a actual film that was released in theaters or a porn film. And it happened all by mistake.
Well, it was. I don't think it was a mistake. You sought out the movie.
I sought out the movie, but nobody, when I looked at the movie, it wasn't like, yeah. People were like, oh, Caligula. I was like, oh, that sounds like an interesting movie. I didn't look up anything about the movie. I was like 11.
I feel like this explains a lot.
About
About what?
Amanda.
Yeah.
Hey, porn is beautiful. It is an art form. I do really appreciate like the old porn films though. There's an Alice in Wonderland porn film that had music and everything. It's
I'm
real bad, but I appreciate it nonetheless.
I'm really, really trying to find a way to get to the main topic of tonight.
It's
Speaking of
about weirdos
history,
of history, right? I'm gonna
Yeah.
be a weirdo of history one day.
Well, this one isn't a weirdo of history. This is a really
It's about a
cool,
badass woman of history.
badass
You know
woman of
who are
history.
badass women, right?
What'd
Porn
you say?
stars. Porn stars, badass women.
Not all of them.
Some of them.
There's people that suck in every profession.
There are some badass porn stars out there.
There are.
There's your segue. You're welcome.
I really wish we could have found a better segue. The whole first
I'll leave.
15 minutes of this episode wasn't us talking about
hey
porn.
Frankie, Speaking of history, what are you talking about tonight?
We're gonna talk about a badass woman of history.
Mine was better.
We're gonna talk about a badass woman of history. Listen, first of all, I don't remember which website I found her name on, but when I compiled my list of podcast ideas with the people's names that I was gonna look at, I typed in weirdos of history and her name popped up. She's not a weirdo, okay?
Would you
We
like to introduce her?
Oh yeah, obviously, yeah. We are talking about Jeanne de Clisson. I don't know if I'm saying that right. There's a lot of French tonight, and I didn't take French.
Wow, that
Jean de
So-
maybe if you would have been
Clisson.
mean to me, I would have helped you pronounce things because I did take French for 6 years. But fuck you, Franklin.
That's okay. I'll say it confidently.
Here, repeat after me, Frankie.
Yeah.
Jean de Clisson.
Jeanne de Clisson.
I think that's how it's pronounced.
Yeah, I think that's good. That sounds right. We're talking about Jeanne de Clisson, who was born probably around 1300. We don't know. This is like way back. People were barely writing, you know?
If it was a woman, no one cared. No one thought to write down a date because it was a girl.
But we also
Ew.
don't know the exact birthday of her most famous husband. So, but he was also born around 1300. We'll get to him later. But she died around 1359, so she lived about 59 years, 59, 60 years, give or take. The bulk of what makes her very interesting and what we'll be talking about occurs after her third marriage to Oliver the Fourth de Clisson in 1330. The couple would have control over areas in Poitou, and Oliver held a castle at Clisson along with other territories, and they would have 5 children. However, the rivalries between France and England and the Breton War of Succession would lead to the wrongful execution of Oliver, and her attempts to free her husband would bring her trouble with the law and King Philip VI, and her reaction to her husband's execution would lead to her becoming known as the Lioness of Brittany. So let's start with her birth. Jeanne Louise de Belleville de Clisson, Dame de Montague, was born in 1300 on the French side of the border within the duchy.
Montague, like Romeo and Juliet.
It's not spelled the same way, but yeah.
Fuck off.
On the French side of the border within the Duchy of Brittany. She was a daughter of the nobleman Maurice IV Montague of Belleville and Palau, and Lettice de Parthenay of Parthenay. As a noble family in the area, they had direct or indirect business in winemaking, salt farming, and the merchant movement of these goods to and from markets as far as the Iberian Peninsula and all the way up to England.
Excuse me, what the fuck is salt farming?
Well, salt's a mineral, right?
Yeah, you farm for the mineral of salt.
Yeah.
Really, Hannah?
I actually,
By saying farming, it implies, to me at least, it implies a good, like a plant-based good.
what is salt farming? Salt, Jesus Christ.
There's fish farming too, Hannah.
Mhm.
That's not a plant.
Well, I believe fish are friends and not food.
They can be friends and food.
Absolutely not.
Pigs are
Leave the
friends.
fishies alone.
Pigs are friends, and pork belly is delicious.
Eat the pig, eat the fish, eat everything.
Listen, the older I get, the more meat disgusts me, and I'm about to become a vegetarian.
But as Amanda will attest, pork belly is delicious. So
I fucking love pork belly. Oh, I love pork belly so much. We need, as a society, we need to eat pork belly more frequently.
Jeanne's father died when she was 4 years old, and there are no records indicating that her mother remarried.
Wait, we
So-
never went into what salt farming is.
Yeah, you completely bypassed that. I think he
So-
wanted to bypass it.
I kind of looked it up, but like there's a modern technique called salt farming that is like farming. It's like it's just.
I
salt
got
mines.
this. I got
It's the
it.
production of salt from mines, the sea or coastal salt works.
The traditional way of salt harvesting or salt farming. Traditionally, salt was harvested from either solar evaporation ponds or rock deposits, mainly rock deposits back in the medieval times. Salt evaporation ponds are shallow, artificial basins designed to extract salt from seawater, salty lakes, or mineral-rich springs through natural evaporation. The salt rock deposits are just what they sound like.
Yeah. So
You're welcome.
how they would produce it, the most common method of salt farming, they would
Pickaxe.
dig pits to get to underground springs that were full of brine, or they would collect seawater, and then they would use a boiling house to separate the water from the salt, because the water would evaporate, but the salt would stay.
You
And
can
they needed
actually do
salt
it.
back then because, that's how
Food
they
tastes bad.
preserve food. Well, that's how they preserve food. They didn't use it for seasoning.
I tend to make salt occasionally when I go to the beach. It's part of my fun little witch stuff. It's fun. I
My
like
back
doing it.
hurts too much to fully wrap my brain around this.
Your back hurts, and that's why you can't think straight.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of like whenever, like, you're driving and somebody's like, "Turn down the music. I can't concentrate. I can't
Hey,
see straight."
hey, I do that all the time.
You do that all the time. Frankie will be like, "Hey, can we turn down the music? I gotta see."
I gotta
I'm like,
focus on where I'm driving.
you said the one time I have to see.
Yeah, I did. Jeanne's father died when she was 4, and there are no known records indicating that her mother remarried. There are some records that she was born from her father's second marriage. There's some records that suggest he was married to someone else for a political alliance that produced a son, but this half brother died before he had any children of his own, so Jeanne ended up inheriting the bulk of her father's estate.
Okay. Her mom probably was not allowed to get remarried then, or else she would forfeit her daughter's inheritance.
Yeah, that's probably what happened.
Mm-hmm.
At 12 years old, she was married for the first time.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's not great. This is medieval times, though, so
Hey,
young.
Amanda,
You gotta
remember
live
when
like
you said
Stevie.
15 was too young in my Christine de Pizan episode?
No, we did. I'd like to point out, and this is a really gross thing about history. The moment that a woman bled, she could be married off. I had my period, got my first period when I was like 8. I would have been fucking married off.
You would have.
Oh, ugh.
Let's play. How old is her first husband?
I don't
At
want to play this
least-
game.
At least 30.
Wrong.
At least.
Wrong.
Is it worse or better?
Well, she said at least 30, so that's wrong. So it's got to be younger than 30.
Oh, okay.
29.
No, he
25.
is. No, he is 19.
I
Still
want
not
to be
great.
like, yay, but absolutely not.
Geoffrey de Chateaubriand the Eighth. At 14, they had she had her first child
Oh,
with
God.
Geoffrey.
Oh, ouch. Ouch.
Geoffrey the Ninth, who also had a daughter with Geoffrey, Louise, who would go on to inherit her father and brother's estates because her brother would die without any heirs. Jeanne was
Good for
widowed.
Louise.
Jeanne was widowed in 1326 when Geoffrey died from unknown circumstances. Literally nothing about how this guy died. He's just dead now.
Can we pretend she murdered him just for fun?
I'd like to pretend it was something funnier, stupid. I once heard about a stupid death where a guy um, fell into, because back in the medieval times they had those really long toilet things so that the shit would slide out the castle walls or whatever.
Oh no, someone fell into that.
Someone fell into that. There's one of those, and then the other one, which is really funny. I think this happened to like a monarch or a lord or something. Somebody was trying to assassinate this guy, and they snuck into the outhouse and stabbed this guy in his butt while he was trying to shit. And I think that's really funny too. It's really, hey, you know what? Poop's funny. Poop's funny. Elvis died on the toilet.
I
A
know
lot
that
of
he did.
people die on the toilet. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Because you're straining so much, a lot of
I-
times whenever you got to strain to poop, People die on the toilet.
I never want to die on the toilet. I just don't want that to happen
You're
to me.
gonna die in a Taco Bell at age 28. You've already
Yeah.
decided.
As was quite usual for young noble widows of the time, Jeanne remarried. In 1328, she married Guy de Penthièvre of the House of Penthièvre, the second son of the Duke of Brittany. This guy, Jeanne, is 28 years old here, so is an actual adult human being.
Wait. Can you say the Duke of Brittany again, real quick?
The Duke of Brittany.
It's Brittany, bitch.
Thank you. That was worth it, I think.
Yes, it was.
Thank you.
The Duke of Brittany was 41 years old at the time of the marriage. And the theory among historians is that Jeanne did this to protect her underage children because the Duke of Brittany's family was quite powerful. The marriage did not last long, only lasted 2 years. The Duke's family did not think Jeanne was good enough for Guy, particularly the de Blois faction of the family. And so they laid. What'd you say?
Are you calling him Guy? Is it spelled G-Y or G-U-Y?
Yeah. Is it Guy? Yeah, well, Guy's stupid and Guy is what martial arts participants wear, so I'm gonna call him Guy. The de Blois faction of the Duke's family laid a complaint with the bishops of Vannes and Rennes, saying that they needed to protect their heritage. And an investigation was conducted, resulting in the marriage being annulled by Pope John the 22nd. But Jeanne would get married a third time. I've been saying this man's name wrong at the beginning. I apologize. Olivier IV de Clisson. In 1330, they would marry. And both of them are said to have been born around 1300, so both of them are around 30 at the time of the marriage. And it was said to be a marriage of actual love, which is rare in medieval times. They actually did love each other when they got married. Olivier IV de Clisson was a wealthy Breton who held a castle at Clisson, a manor house in Nantes, and lands at Blaine. He had a son from a previous marriage, Jeanne, and Jeanne also brought her own power as a recent widow. She was herself the lord of Chateaubriand, controlled areas in Poitou, just south of the Breton border, in the southeast of Clisson. Jeanne was also very fucking smart when she got married to Olivier. Even though she loved him, the marriage contract showed that Jeanne ensured that all of the inheritances of her children from her previous marriage were legally secure. So
Good
nothing
girl.
taken away from them. She would eventually have 5 children with Olivier. The first was Isabel, she was born out of wedlock 5 years before the marriage to Olivier.
Scandal.
And also while she was still married to the other guy.
Scandalous.
Well, no, before she was married to him. Actually, no, this was when she was in her first marriage. Sorry.
Wait, what year did she have this child?
Isabel was born in 1325. Her first husband didn't die until 1326, and they were married in 1312.
So she was trying to pass Isabel off as her first husband's.
No, she wasn't, because she had
wasn't.
She had 2 children with him. Maybe she was at the time, but there's no evidence that she tried to, because she did have 2 children with her first husband, Geoffrey IX and Louise. The first daughter was, like I said, born out of wedlock, and eventually did marry John I of Rio, and she died fairly young in 1343. She had a son, Maurice, who died 1 year after being born, so that's very sad. They had another son, Olivier V, who became his father's successor and was nicknamed the Butcher.
I know that nickname has to relate to war, but I really just want to imagine he was an actual butcher.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't actually look up why he was called the Butcher.
I think we can all imagine why.
I did find it. I found it. Just a little fun. This is after his parents are both dead. Olivier executed. Sorry. During a war with the English, his squire was captured, tortured, and killed. And in revenge,
Poor Squire.
yeah. Well, Olivier was not happy. Olivier V not happy about this. He executed 15 prisoners and mutilated his enemies, cutting off their arms or legs. And one man evidently remarked, "God, the body of Saint Benedict, the English are not wrong when they call you the butcher." So there we go. That's her son. He learned. Hey, I will say, he learned from the best because Jeanne will be butchering some people later on in this story.
Do they deserve it?
Enough.
Okay, I'll take it.
They had another son, Guillaume, who died fairly young of exposure. He was born in 1338 and died in 1345. And then she had another daughter named Jeanne. We don't know when she died. She was born in 1340, unknown death date.
Some say she might still be alive.
She's just roaming the earth, butchering people like her family is known for.
Well, I hope not that.
She was Jack the Ripper.
Listen, I subscribe to the midwife theory when it comes to Jack the Ripper.
So Jeanne, also despite marrying for love, another very smart move by her part, she ensured that her rights would also be taken care of. She took her husband to court.
The third one.
Yes, Olivier.
The other two are dead. I mean, listen.
Yeah. Well, the
Corpses
first
have
one
been
is
put on trial before, so I wouldn't be surprised with her.
the first one is dead. The second one they got an annulment by the from the Pope.
I thought he died, and then
No,
they annulled it.
His family didn't think she should be married to the de Blois part of his family didn't think she should be married to into the Duke's family. And so
okay. I thought he had died, and then they're like, get her out of here.
No.
It wasn't illegal.
The de Blois are all gonna be pieces of shit later on in the story to her. So she took Olivier IV to court to ensure that earnings from his estate would go to her, as was agreed to in the marriage contract. King Philip VI heard the case and found in her favor, as witnesses of the marriage attested to the promises being made. And this court case had no impact on the marriage. The issue was resolved amicably after that, and they continued to have a seemingly loving, happy marriage.
Slay.
That's going to end. Not the loving and happiness part. Well, the happiness is going to end soon because the War of Britain Succession is here. This is one of the first parts of the early 100 Years' War between Britain and France. We all know about the 100 Years' War. We've all learned about it.
All 116 years.
Yep. All 116 years of the 100 Years' War. Didn't know how to count back then. It's fine. It's fine. Counting's hard now, you know? Once you get past 10, difficult.
I don't have enough fingers.
Exactly. This was a conflict between the Counts of Blois, they're back again, and the Montforts of Brittany for control of the sovereign duchy of Brittany, which at the time was a fief of the Kingdom of France. This was like a part of the proxy war between the French and English monarchs involved in the conflict. The French kingdom supported the Blois. I'm going to call them the Blois. I know that's incorrect, but it just feels right. It feels better on my mouth. And the English, the Blois had a female heir to the Duchy of Brittany. And the English backed the Montforts, who were putting a male heir forward for the Duchy of Brittany. The Montforts were ultimately successful in 1364, but they fucking turned on England and pledged their loyalty to the King of France. So the English got fucking screwed. This is why they hate the French. But Olivier IV was a senior baron in the region and had to choose sides in the conflict. He was contacted by his friend Charles de Blois, to help him defend Britain against the forces of the English sympathizer John de Montfort. He decided to join the forces of Charles de Blois, who was supported by the King of France and French forces. The extended de Clisson family, not in full agreement on this. Olivier IV's brother, Omre de Clisson embraced the de Montfort party, whilst his other brother, Garnier de Clisson, fought against the de Montforts. So a real civil war amongst the de Clisson family. Yeah. In January of 1342, the de Clisson castle of Blaine was chosen as the headquarters by Robert Bertrand, the French king's lieutenant sent to aid Charles de Blois. But the English forces would then begin to descend on the town of Vannes, and Oliver Clisson was one of the commanders of the besieged town. 4 times it endured sieges from the Montfort or English armies before it was overwhelmed by the English forces, and Olivier de Clisson was captured. Instead of a huge ransom being placed on de Clisson's head, though, an exchange was proposed and accepted. Olivier de Clisson was subsequently freed, with Ralph de Stafford, the first Earl of Stafford, being released by the French in return.
Was this a good trade?
Not really. It seemed like the English were asking for someone who didn't really matter compared to the release of Olivier. For the French, it was a great deal, but for the English, it seemed like an off deal. It was an unequal exchange. And that led to Charles de Blois becoming suspicious of Olivier. He suspected Olivier of not defending the city to his fullest capabilities and would later accuse him of being a traitor. So when the English and the French, this doesn't end the conflict of the War of Britain succession, but it puts it on hold for a little bit. The English and French signed the Truce of Melestroit in January 1343. And to celebrate peace, they host a grand tournament. Olivier de Clisson and 15 other Breton nobles were invited to the tournament. The unequal ransom paid to free Olivier and his family ties to England and the accusations levied by Charles de Blois made the king suspicious of him. Whilst the men were on their way to the tournament, they were arrested by French soldiers, taken to Paris, and once in the capital, placed on trial for treason. There was little evidence presented in the trial, but guess what? When the king's doing the trial and he thinks you're guilty, he doesn't need evidence. They were accused and found guilty of having conspired with the English to enable the town of Vannes to fall. In the 1600s, historian André Duchesne would claim that the evidence that they used was private correspondence between King Edward of England and these lords to convince them to change allegiances, which was against the 9th article of the truce that said no one in the obedience of one king at the time of the truce could put himself under the obedience of the other while the truce continued. That was it. It was like a letter of the king going, hey, join me. And the French king said, well, you're a treasonous bastard.
It's all it takes.
Jeanne is not happy about this.
I can't imagine why.
So she's going to try to have him released. She tried to bribe one of the guards.
As one does.
To have Olivier freed. Didn't work. The guard she attempted to bribe was arrested for delaying Olivier's execution. And Jeanne was now accused of bribing a guard and trying to cheat French justice.
We've all been there. It happens to the best of us.
Not French justice, but just justice in general.
Yeah. On March 12th, 1343, the guard was released on parole by Parliament. The day after, they ordered Olivier de Clisson to write his account of what had happened, and then he was transferred on the 14th to a more secure prison. And Jeanne was summoned on March 19th as wanted by the French courts to answer charges of having conspired to have rebellions, disobediences, and excesses against the king, public welfare, and the king's royal majesty. Don't know why the king was put in there twice. He's very upset, I guess.
It's all
I like
about
how
him
one of
all
them
the
was
time.
just the king, and then the other one was just royal majesty.
The king's
king.
royal majesty.
Royal
Yeah,
majesty.
like it's separate from him.
Yeah.
You've personally committed a crime against me, the king, but also me as His Royal Majesty. Jeanne was being accused of treason with no evidence that she had done anything to promote rebellions or disobedience up
Hey,
to this
Frankie,
point.
is she not gonna take it?
Oh, she's
No, she's
fucking.
not gonna take it. She's not gonna take it anymore.
No, she's not going to take it anymore. Olivier is going to fucking take it because, yikes. She was found in default guilty of treason. The summons to attend court on the charges were ignored. She just didn't fucking show up. And then we have a quote from the book The Law of Treason and Treason Trials in Later Medieval France of what was said and what was done to Olivier IV. In the year of our grace 1343, on Saturday, the second day of August, Olivier, Lord of Clisson, knight, prisoner in the Châtelet of Paris for several treasons and other crimes perpetrated by him against the king and the crown of France, and for alliances that he made with the King of England, enemy of the king and kingdom of France, as the said Olivier has confessed, was by judgment of the king given at Orleans, John from the Châtelet of Paris to Les Halles, and there on a scaffold had his head cut off. From there, his corpse was drawn to the gibbet of Paris and hanged on the highest level, and his head was sent to Nantes in Brittany to be put on a lance over the city's Salvatout gate as a warning to others.
That it's Brittany, bitch.
Yeah, no, the warning was, hey, if you fuck with the king, we will chop your head off, hang your body from the highest point in Paris, and then put your head on a stick.
It's not Brittany, bitch.
No, it's not Brittany. So this execution shocked the nobles as the evidence of guilt was not publicly demonstrated because he wasn't guilty, most likely. And the process of desecrating and exposing a body was reserved for the lower class criminals, not the rich. On August 26, 1343, Jeanne was charged with another crime, lèse majesté, which is just a crime against the crown. And she was sentenced to banishment with the confiscation of her property.
So she had an empty castle.
She didn't have a castle. That meant by confiscation of her property meant all of her lands. There's a legend now. This is maybe true, maybe not. The legend is that Jeanne took her children to see their father's remains being displayed and made them all swear that they would seek revenge for his unjust murder.
Oh my god, don't do that. Don't show your kids that.
Don't traumatize the children. I'm gonna say she didn't bring them to be traumatized, but she did force them to swear revenge.
Yeah, probably did. What is definitely known is that Jeanne did return to Brittany, and she was very active in Brittany. Because the estates of Olivier and herself have been confiscated by the French crown, the parts of their lands that answered to France were no longer accessible to her. But the parts of their lands that answered to England were. So she sold off her material wealth, her jewelry, and anything else she could to raise money. And then she got an army of 400 men and attacked several castles in Brittany. In each one, she and her raiding party would butcher almost everybody in the castle, leaving just one or two people alive to tell the tale of what had happened.
What about children?
It doesn't say anything about children. It just says she
I
butchered.
would like to think that if there were any children, she's just like, maybe not.
I hope so. She now allied herself with the Montfort cause. She began to the claimant to the duchy under the Montfort family had nominally granted her land, and the French soldiers there were targeted by her. The two big castles that she attacked and garrisons were a garrison at Chateau Thébaud, about 20 kilometers southeast of Nantes, which had been a former post under the control of her husband, and a castle at Tuffeau. The castle was built on the edge of a forest and was under the command of Galois de la House, an officer of Charles de Blois, who recognized Jeanne and let her and her forces into the castle, where they then considered to massacre the entire army except for one person.
The man who let her in.
Probably not. Probably not. So soon, the French were afraid of Jeanne de Clisson, and they began to gather forces to track her down and kill her if they could. And she preempted this. She got her children and some of her followers and sailed to England. Once there, it is said that she ended up meeting with John of Montfort and King Edward III, and using the funds that she had left and some assistance from the English king, bought and furnished 3 warships, painted them black, and gave them red sails, and decided that her best use was to use her knowledge of the treacherous seas around the coast of Brittany and become a pirate.
I'll be honest with you, not the turn I was expecting.
No, not the turn you were expecting.
No.
She called her 3 ships the Black Fleet. Well, her enemies called it the Black Fleet. It was a compact fighting force that could easily slip out of estuaries into the Bay of Biscay, attack French shipping, and quickly escape. She would capture vessels, killing all but one of the crew, take any valuable cargo, then move on. And the sole survivors would tell the stories that spread the legend of Jeanne de Clisson, now becoming popularly known as the Lioness of Brittany, the captain of a ship she named My Revenge.
That's kind of dope.
It's a cool name. It's a great name.
It's kind of good. It's pretty good.
Imagine seeing a black ship with blood red sails coming at you, and it just says My Revenge on it. You're like, I'm fucked.
You just give up.
Jeanne had a particular hatred, of course, for any French nobility that she captured for what happened to her husband, and she showed them no mercy. According to some legends, she personally decapitated all high-valued prisoners with an axe before tossing their bodies into the ocean.
I get the feeling she taught her son everything he knew.
About butchering, yeah.
Yeah.
This is kind of why I don't want to fall in love. Is this what love makes you do? Is chop people's heads off? Maybe we should not.
I don't think
do
I've
that.
ever listen. I've been in love before. I don't think I've ever loved anyone enough to start decapitating people.
If someone hurt my dogs, I would have them turned inside out.
That's
Yeah, but
fair
I
enough.
wouldn't be the one to do it.
Yeah, would you do it, Hannah? Would you personally
Yes.
turn them inside out?
Yes.
I would not. I would pay somebody to do it and just be like, show me a picture that you did it. Yeah, I don't want to get my hands dirty.
So the
That's
ships
all
of
fun and hurt.
her ships of the Black Fleet initially attacked shipping in the Bay of Biscay, probably from the island fortress of Yale, which was an island that one of her family castles was on. So she used that for her initial attacks. She then attacked coastal villages in Normandy, putting several people that they captured to sword and or fire. Eventually, she moved into the English Channel and, like I said, would hunt down the French commerce ships that were there, kill the entire crews, leaving only a few witnesses to tell of what she was doing.
Do you think French vessels just started flying under literally any other flag?
Oh, definitely. They definitely were they definitely had some English flags waiting,
Mhm.
on their ship.
Like, wave to them. Just wave high. Don't make eye contact, though.
So Jeanne is sometimes cited as a privateer for the English, which, if you don't know the difference between a privateer and a pirate, privateer
One
meant
is legal.
yeah, privateer meant she had the legal protection of the English government backing her. Pirate is she's doing it on her own. There's no physical evidence for a lot of privateers, the way we know they were privateers is we still have the letter patent or royal letter of protection naming them as a privateer for the crown. I think we have Sir Francis Drake's, and
I would
obviously
assume so.
he was knighted. So I mean, being knighted is a pretty big sign that you have the government's backing. We don't have any of this for Jeanne, so it's unknown if she was a privateer or just a pirate. Although legend does say that the English crown helped her pay for the 3 warships that she utilized, and in 1346, she did use her 3 warships to supply the English forces during a battle. So if she wasn't a privateer, she definitely was helping the English at the bare minimum. Her fleet eventually was found by the French, and her flagship, My Revenge, was sunk.
That's so sad.
Her and her 2 sons were adrift for 5 days, and her son Guillaume died of exposure during this. Jeanne and Olivier were finally rescued, and Jeanne would continue being a pirate in the English Channel for another 13 years. The ending of her piracy only came in the 1350s when she got married for the 4th and final time to Walter Bentley, one of King Edward III's military deputies during the War of Britain's Succession. Bentley had been appointed Edward's lieutenant in Brittany in September of 1350. Edward III's lieutenant in the neighboring province, Raoul de Cours, though, had wrestled control of several of Jeanne's properties from the French. But Edward III did order that those estates be returned to Bentley and thus be returned to Jeanne.
So
However,
someone stole them, and then England, the king said, give them back to her.
Yeah.
remember, the French took them from her,
Yes, I know that.
and
Who
one
took
of
them from the French?
Edward's lieutenant, Raoul de Cours,
Oh, okay.
he took them from the French, so he had them in his control. And Edward III was like, hey, give those estates to Walter Bentley, who had become Jeanne's 4th husband.
Okay.
Did she love this man?
There's no evidence of whether this was a marriage for love or a marriage for political protection. I'm
gonna think that maybe they got along nicely, at least.
I would hope so, you know?
It sounds like they did.
I think he loved her, at least, because we'll learn about what's about to happen. Edward III, as I said, ordered that the estates be returned to Walter Bentley. And then he changed his mind, because who didn't want Jeanne de Clisson to have these castles and estates? Well, Charles de Blois, the guy who accused her former husband of being a traitor. And Edward III had changed his allegiances and was now negotiating terms with Charles, who had now become the Duke of Brittany. The de Blois family is the reason her second marriage was annulled. They just fucking hate this woman. So, as part of a treaty with Charles, Edward III ordered Bentley to surrender Jeanne's remaining castles in Brittany. Bentley refused to do this and traveled back to England to plead their case. He was imprisoned in the Tower of London while his case was heard, but eventually he was released and allowed to return, not because Edward III agreed with them and was going to give them back the castles, but the war had come to a halt at this point as the spread of the Black Plague had decimated 20% of the population of both countries, and war was not a feasible option right now. By January of 1357, Walter and Jeanne were granted the barony of La Roche-Moisson as compensation, and Jeanne settled at the castle of Hennebont, a port town on the Brittany coast in the territory of her de Montfort allies. So she didn't get a lot of the she did lose the bulk of the estate, but she did end up with a barony and another castle as compensation, I guess. Walter would end up dying in December of 1359, and Jeanne would follow a few weeks later.
The plague.
There's no recorded cause of death for either of them.
She was almost 60.
Yeah, that's a long life back then.
It was, yeah.
Was Walter Bentley around the same age?
Yeah.
Walter Bentley, who died in 1359. I'm looking up when he was born. He was born in 1310, so
Ooh, he was younger,
yeah, younger man.
but still old.
Still old for the time, yes. That was his only wife, Jeanne de Clisson. They had no children together either. But
Well,
yeah,
no, she was well past childbearing years back then.
yeah. But yeah, that was his only wife. So maybe he did love her. I don't know how Jeanne felt about him. But yes, that's the story of Jeanne de Clisson. Bit of a short episode this week.
Yes, but a very chaotic life.
I kind of feel bad for her.
I feel bad for her too, but
This fucking family. Can you tell me what happened to this fucking family? I hope they all fucking fucked. Fucking died.
they all fucking fucked.
Shut up, Franklin.
So you want to know the fate of the de Blois family?
The shitty people, yeah.
Yeah, the House of Blois.
It sounds. You should just call them the House of Bleh.
The House of Bleh.
Bleh.
So the House of Bleh.
Yeah.
Let's figure out. I don't think they're around anymore. Obviously, well, there's no like monarchy in France anymore either. But I don't know what happened to Charles de Blois. Charles de Blais.
They all died of the plague.
Worse than the plague.
Charles Duke of Brittany. Well, you want to know what his nickname was?
Big dick.
The Saint.
Tiny dick. What?
His nickname was the Saint.
No, it wasn't.
Saint.
Yeah, the Saint.
Well, he was not a saint.
No.
Yeah, but the Pope liked him, so.
Yeah, and was this the Pope that was fucking? Of course the Pope liked him if he was the Pope that was fucking. Well, a lot
I don't
of
know if
popes
it was the Pope. But yeah, a lot of popes back then were
Is
fucking.
he on the list of sexually active popes?
I don't know. He was beatified by the Catholic Church.
Is that where they put like a bunch of Mardi Gras beads on people?
No, it's a recognition from the Catholic Church that this person made it to heaven.
Nah. I was in the Catholic faith for half my life. Nah. If dogs and animals don't go into heaven, this fucker doesn't go into heaven either.
Yeah, he was beatified by Pope Pius X in
Fuck you, Pius.
in 1904.
1904.
Yeah,
Anna, was Pius fucking? Look up if Pius was fucking.
in 1904, Pope Pius X said, "This guy made it to heaven." Everyone.
And did Joan of Arc make it to heaven?
Oh, probably not.
No, because she was a woman, and why should women go to heaven? Because we're better.
Are you saying
Yes.
women go to super heaven?
Yeah, actually, I would say women and feminists go to super heaven. So Frankie, you can go to heaven too.
He has a he was in December 1904. Charles was beatified as Blessed Charles of Blois, and he has a feast day on September 30th. So every September 30th, you gotta celebrate him.
I'm
just
not
missed
going
it.
to fucking.
We did just miss it 2 months ago. Yeah, so everything fucking looking up Charles. He died in combat and ended up losing. I will say Charles de Blois died in combat during the Battle of Auray in 1364, which is the final battle of the Breton War of Succession, and it was a loss for his family, and the victory went to the Montforts.
That's awesome.
But yeah, he kind of he was a fucking freak though. You know why? He was a real freak, this guy. There's not like a lot about him because like Jeanne is cooler and no one wants to talk about this guy. But he liked to mortify his own flesh.
I'm sorry, excuse me?
He would place pebbles in his shoes and sleep on straw instead of a bed because he confessed every night in fear of sleeping in a state of sin.
Sleep on a bed, my guy.
So this man,
and he wore under his armor in battle,
not the hair shirt.
He wore a sackcloth, yeah, a garment made of coarse cloth or animal hair.
Man needed help.
This is, you know what? I don't hate religion, but I hate religious fanatics like this fucker.
Mm-hmm.
Sleep on a bed, my dude.
Yeah, I don't think God's gonna draw the line at, hey, listen, you didn't sleep on a bed of straw, so you can't get into heaven.
Yeah, chill.
You know what? Also, though, you know what? Want to know another reason he sucked?
Why?
Because he's one of those religious people who's like, oh yeah, I'm very religious and I love God and I will do everything. He ordered the massacre of 1,400 civilians.
And this guy went to heaven according to the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Fuck the Catholic Church. All right. They need to fix their whole priest problem that's going on. And they also need to and they also need to take this guy off the fucking he made it to heaven list.
Beatification is a recognition accorded by the Catholic Church of a deceased person's entrance into heaven and capacity to intercede on behalf of individuals who pray in their name. So you can pray in his name and he'll like intercede for you with God.
No, I don't want him fucking anywhere near my life.
So he's not he's not a saint.
Good.
I don't think.
He shouldn't be.
Hey, they tried to get him a sainthood.
Was this pious, the whatever?
No, not pious. So what happened with his sainthood was his family successfully lobbied for his canonization as a saint of the Roman Catholic Church for his devotion to religion. Oh, maybe he is a saint. Bending to pressure from Charles V of France, Pope Urban authorized a commission to study the matter. Urban died in December 1370 to be succeeded by Pope Gregory XI. The commission held its first meeting in September of 1371 and forwarded its report the following January. Gregory appointed 3 cardinals to review the matter. The Pope returned to Italy in September 1376, arriving in Rome in 1377. He died the following March. Gregory was succeeded by Clement VII, but the documents were in Rome with Pope Urban VI. This is that weird period of time where we had 2 popes.
Oh, I remember 2 popes.
Yeah, we had the Pope in France and the Pope in Italy.
So the French Pope made him a saint.
Well, the documents were in Rome at this point, and there was no other activity. And then in 1454, his grandson was like, hey, we got to continue to advocate for his recognition. So the process was reopened in 1894, 400 years later. And then on December 14th, 1904, he was beatified as Blessed Charles of Blois, and his feast day is September 30th. Is he? Does that make him a saint?
No, because it would say he was made a saint.
There'd be a sainthood.
Is Charles de Blois? I'm looking up now specifically. Is Charles de Blois a saint? All right, he's not.
Oh, I was gonna fucking lose my mind if he was.
But they almost made him a saint.
Yeah.
Oh wait, he is. Oh, the canonization was annulled. He was made a saint.
Because he killed 1,400 people.
Well, no, because they still beatified him. Blessed Charles of Blois-Châtillon, canonized as a saint of the Roman Catholic Church for his devotion to religion. This canonization was later annulled, although he remains beatified. So he's no longer a saint. I didn't know they could do that.
Why? Yeah, you can annul sainthood. Why was he annulled?
Because of his... Why was he annulled?
Yeah.
I don't know.
He killed 1,400 people.
Yeah, Hannah, so many people have killed people, and they haven't.
I'm looking it up. I'm on a Roman Catholic Saints website. Here we go. Why was Charles de Blois' sainthood revoked? I cannot find a reason. It just keeps saying that it was later annulled. I don't know if they ever gave a reason.
Let's go with the reason I said and called it even.
I don't think that's it. I'm gonna look.
Charles was okay. I found a website about other peculiar corners of the Catholic Church. So he's on here. He's on this list. Here we go. The website says, "Remind me again why we canonized this dude."
I mean, a good question.
He was quite famous for his great religious devotion and severe penances, which is how his family got his cause for canonization before Rome, in spite of some of the shady things he'd done, up to and including ordering the execution of some 2,000 civilians. We don't know exactly what happened with the canonization process, but we can make an educated guess that some strings were pulled and money changed hands, and presto, one new saint. An unspecified number of years later, but within the lifetime of John de Montfort. Oh, the guy who beat him in the war, remember?
Hey.
Who pushed to have the canonization reversed. Pope Gregory XI took another look and seemed to have had an "oh hell, what have I done" moment. The canonization was annulled. To my knowledge, is the only time this has ever happened.
That's awesome.
Charles was beatified in 1904, but there are currently no active efforts underway to return him to sainthood.
Good. Don't.
The only other interesting point about this rather dodgy historical figure was he played an important supporting role in the story of a much more interesting person, Jeanne de Clisson. You're super right. Jeanne de Clisson is much more interesting.
We just did a whole episode. Why?
Yeah, and this one also like it cites she died of unknown causes. So we don't know how she died. But you know what? I think it's really cool that the family who tried to fucking like screw her over time and time again, they had a little success, yeah, but in the end, they lost the war.
And he got his sainthood revoked.
And he got his sainthood revoked and is the only saint to have his sainthood revoked.
I'm pretty sure. Let me double check.
Which saints have had their sainthood annulled? Like,
is it just him?
I can't. There's a list from 2011. This article, saints removed by the Catholic Church. I don't know if I believe this website.
They can remove like feast days and stuff like that.
Yeah, they've removed feast days, but I can't find like an actual saint that was like, you're no longer a saint.
Yeah. It says that the Catholic Church removed 93 saints from the universal calendar and revoked their feast days. But I've never heard like they're just removed from the calendar and they don't have a feast day no more, but they're not a saint.
Yeah.
So this guy is the only. That's hilarious. Fuck you, dude.
He's the only one who had his
Let us
sainthood
know in the
annulled.
comments if we're wrong, but fuck this guy.
Well, we're not wrong about that.
No, I mean if there are more saints that were no.
So I found an article from ABC News. The Catholic Church removed 93 saints. Yeah, when Pope Paul VI revised the canon of saints and determined some of the names had only ever been legends, or not enough was known about them to determine their status, but they weren't actually desainted. They were just downgraded. So like they demoted them as saints, but they never like. And a lot of them were just like ones that they weren't enough historical evidence.
You
that
could
they
still
ever
probably
existed.
like take them as your like Roman Catholic name. Like I remember when I was confirmed, I picked like Saint Genesis or something like that.
Like Saint Nicholas, Santa Claus was removed.
Yeah.
And Saint Christopher, because there's not enough historical evidence he existed. But yeah, this guy, from what I can find, is the only guy who was named a saint, and then they took that away from him. Good, he deserved it. He earned that.
Yeah, he earned that annulment.
Let this lady live. You've done enough. You got her husband that she loved killed for no reason. Disgusting. Well, let's all celebrate Jeanne de Clisson, my first badass woman of history. I don't know if I'll have any more badass women of history. I don't know if I have any more badass women of history on my list. She was supposed to be a weirdo of history, but she's not a weirdo. She's cool as shit.
I have a nice book for you, Frankie. I have two nice books for you that I think you'd really like.
All right.
They're all about badass women of history.
I might enjoy that, yeah.
Yeah.
You gonna drop the name?
Yeah, it's called Rejected Princesses.
Rejected Princesses. That's a cool name.
It's really cool. There's Artemisia Gentileschi. She's one of my fucking favorites.
Well, you should cover her.
I would. You know what? Maybe I will. She was really dope. She
make it episode 69.
No, episode 69 is going to be Disney. What is episode 69? Is that my next episode?
No, we're a few away still.
Okay, well then maybe.
Because if Song of the South was episode 69, I would come to your house and force you to change it.
No, I want it to be episode 69. So maybe I'll do her next week then. Who knows? Or next time.
That's disgusting. You disgust me.
What, did I want Song of the South to be 69?
Yeah. I want episode 69 to be a fun, happy episode, and you're going to make it about
racism. Maybe I'll talk about the porn theaters.
I will allow it as long as it's not Song of the South.
You know what? I'll take that. Can I talk about porn if we're doing episode 69?
It makes sense.
It does, doesn't it?
It does make sense.
All right. Well, stay tuned for that episode.
All right. Well, but that's not our next episode. Our next episode, we're going back to Scooby-Doo. Hannah, you're up.
That's right.
It's Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf.
Yay. So I panicked this past week and thought we were covering it tonight.
No, definitely we're not.
And I
Thank
was
God.
like, I like woke up at like 2 a.m. was like, I didn't write my notes.
I'm very excited to do this because this is the one I think I hated the most as a kid. When I said I hated all three of those movies.
We're about to find out if that's true.
The way I liked them was the order I liked them in, like top to bottom was Ghoul School, fucking what was I can't even remember the Boo Brothers and then Reluctant Werewolf. But man, I don't know if anything could be worse than fucking Boo Brothers. That was bad.
Until we get to the Arabian Nights Scooby Doo one.
God,
Like,
that's
It's
like
coming
the
up.
next, that's the one right after Reluctant Werewolf, and I'm not happy about it.
who's doing that one?
Me.
Because I actively refuse to cover it.
To be fair, I
It's
do
bad.
get a reprieve afterwards because I get to review the Scooby-Doo Johnny Bravo episode as well
Oh, that one's good.
right after that, so I'm happy about that. But
That one was right after?
that's the next thing. So Reluctant Werewolf is 1988. Scooby-Doo and
Mhm.
Arabian Nights is 1994.
Oh, wow. Those
And
are
then
long
Johnny
time.
Bravo is 1997.
I love
Uh,
Johnny Bravo. That's when we were all born.
Mm-hmm. Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf is probably the last real Scooby-Doo thing for 10 years though. Because Arabian Nights we've heard is barely Scooby-Doo. Johnny Bravo is his show. And then Zombie Island didn't come out until 1998. So Scooby-Doo
Yeah,
is
why
kind of
was
like
it-
dead for 10 years.
Yeah, why was it dead for 10 years?
I imagine you'll tell us.
Yeah, I imagine I'll find out when I do the research for Zombie Island. But we have that. This is when we get like the movies that we liked growing up: Zombie Island,
Mhm.
which is Ghost, Alien
Cyber
Invaders, Cyber Chase, and we get the weird kind of stuff that they did, like the Scooby Doo Project and Night of the Living Doo.
I just showed the Scooby Doo project to someone, and they're like, "Is this a fan?" And I was like, "No, they actually showed this on Cartoon Network. I remember this being on Cartoon Network."
Yeah, this is an officially canon thing, I guess. And we have a few other things. We're down to 62 items on the list. Can you believe it?
We're going through it fast.
I know. Eventually, we'll finish this list. I don't know if they'll come up with anything. I mean, they did announce that Netflix thing, but like,
Netflix
knows?
takes forever.
yeah, who knows if that'll. I mean, obviously, okay. Well, we're doing a production meeting live on air. If we finish this list, right,
hmm
and they come out with new Scooby Doo things, we got to review them, right? We got to add it.
Oh, absolutely.
Like we've been done with this, but like
Yeah.
when something new comes out, we'll like take an episode to do it. Okay. All right. Well, then that's the end of this episode. Join us next time for Scooby Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf, where Hannah will guide us through the final of that trilogy of movies and the last appearance of Scrappy until the live action film. No more Scrappy for a while, guys.
Yeah, yay.
Thank God.
We're all very happy about that. So, yes, join us next week for our Scooby Doo continuation. And let's take care of business and finish up this episode. If you are listening to us on YouTube, as of recording, I should say that. As of recording, we are on YouTube and Spotify. If you are listening to us on YouTube, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell for notification whenever a new episode is updated or uploaded. If you are listening to us on Spotify, remember to leave a rating and a review and answer the episode question. What do you think of the episode? And no matter where you're listening to us, remember to share the podcast with your friends, with your family, with people you like, with people you don't like, with anyone you think who might be interested in the wide variety of topics that we talk about here on the show. Sharing the show is how most people will hear about it, and we want more people to listen. It would be fun if we could do more stuff with this, and the only way we can do that is if more people listen. If you would like to email us, send us an email with any ideas for episodes, any questions you would like us to answer, any thoughts you have about the show or any of the topics that we've talked about. any long form corrections you want to give us on some things, you can go ahead and do that by sending us an email over at
Nothing to see here podcast at gmail.com. As always, here is spelled HEAR.
if you would like to see some amazing artwork created by Amanda, some fun memes, out of context images, and images that we talk about in the episodes, all posted and done by Hannah. You can do so over on our Instagram page, which is.
Nothing to see here pod.
And I think that's all the business to take care of. The episode is finished. Join us next week for our Scooby Doo review of Scooby Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. And with all of that being said, goodbye and good night.
Bye.
I'm gonna go take some Mucinex.
Bye.